everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We are so thankful to be syndicated, and it's pretty awesome. Thank you so much, Rob Patz, for making that happen. We definitely appreciate that. I wanted to talk to you about how to ask for a raise. A lot of folks are doing the good steward thing and they're staying on the job. They're there every day. They're there before they have to be there. They're doing the absolute right thing. And this is in the world where people don't want to work. So the ones who do work do need to be rewarded for that. So let's talk about how to ask for a raise. If you never ask for a raise, you're just not going to get it. I mean, that's just the way it is. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a few minutes. This is from thecut.com. thecut.com. And I was looking for something like that because I know a lot of you out there are just really, really working hard, and you deserve to be compensated for that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with money. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. So the writer of this is Allison Green. Says, I'm constantly alarmed at how many people tell me they've never asked for a raise. They feel kind of awkward about it and about initiating the conversation, or they feel like they never get an opening to do it. So they're worried that they're going to sound greedy, or they just have no idea how to ask for a raise at all. Instead, they only rely on their employer to notice their good work and offer them the salary increases. Now, a lot of employers are so busy and they just really, they've thought about it. It's just that they've not initiated that. So sometimes it's on your end. Asking you shall receive. We've all heard that. So let's go ahead and talk about this just for a few minutes. Number one, when to ask for a raise. Okay, when to ask for a raise. All right, so that's a big question right there. So as nervous as you might feel about asking for a raise, remember it's much less deal for your boss. Remember that. She or he deals with salaries all the time, and the subject isn't going to feel near as weighty or fraughty to her as it does to you. So you're just kind of nervous about the whole thing. And so let's talk about this a little. Let's dig. And assuming your manager is even a little bit reasonable or has any previous experience managing people, they know it's normal for people to ask for a raise. She's not likely to think quite an outrageous request. That's on your end. You're thinking that the employer is going to think that. Or, how weird. Jane is obviously just here for the money. No, that if you've been a good employee, you're there early, you leave late, you sweep when there's nothing else to do. Yeah, sweeping the floors. That's an awesome thing to do for your boss. Unless you work somewhere truly dysfunctional, it's understood that you work for money. So that's okay. It really is. Even if your manager doesn't ultimately say yes. And you're not likely to damage your relationship by asking for the request, as long as A, you're not asking for an amount that's just really out of this world and out of the market for your work, and B, you have a track record of strong work. That's the key right there, strong work. You aren't likely to fall out of favor simply because you asked to revisit your compensation. The cost of living has went up. I mean, if you're renting, rent has went up. The cost of groceries is just out of this world. So think of it this way. A raise is recognition that you're now contributing at a higher level than the last time your salary was set. A raise isn't a favor or a gift. It's a way for employers to pay fair market value for your work and to keep you around. They need you. I promise you. I'm an employer. I know. So, because otherwise they're eventually going to want to find a different job that doesn't pay you competitively. That means it's in your manager's best interest to know when you've begun to think your work is worth more. They want to know that you think you're worth something too. Okay, let's talk about number two. Be thoughtful about your timing. Okay, this is extremely important. And I'm going to give you some ideas on this as well. You're going to approach your manager to request this raise, and your manager's a human with normal human emotions, okay? They're not like above you in any way, well, except for they're putting their lifeline on. Think about that. Their finances, their house, everything is on the line here, depending on you to do a great job. This means that you shouldn't ask to talk about your salary when she's like especially crazy, like got to get 10 orders out like now, like they're way behind on whatever. That's not the time to ask, not when they're running around like it's nuts. That means that you shouldn't ask when she's especially having a bad day or nervous about impending budget cost. You need to know these things. On the other hand, if you've just saved the day with an important client or garnered rave reviews for a high profile project, or your boss has seemed particularly pleased with you lately, that might be a really good time to make the request. I mean, think about this. They've just gone into it. Maybe you've overheard her on the phone or him over the phone, and they've been into an argument with their spouse, or maybe their kids are into something. That's not a good time. Don't ask then. Okay, so be thoughtful about the timing. Extremely important. Now, number 3, let's talk about this one. If you've been doing excellent work for a year since your salary was last set, it might be the time to ask. Okay, and I'm going to tell you something. When you ask an employer for a raise and you've been doing your job, now that's extremely important right there. They all know how hard it is to find employees. But now you got to keep it up on your end, okay? Now you've been doing a great job. So some companies will revisit your salary every year on their own. They just have salary reviews, often tied to performance reviews, but plenty won't bring it up on their own, which in case you'll need to figure it out, and you'll have to figure out the best way to approach it yourself. In many cases, if it's been a year or more since your salary was last set, and if you've been doing excellent work during that time, it's reasonable to ask to revisit your pay like right now. But if your salary has already increased sometime in the last 12 months, expecting another one before the year is generally not very realistic. And it's likely to come across as you're a little bit out of touch. The same is true if you haven't been in the job for a year yet. There can be some expectations to this, like if the job turned out to be wildly different than was discussed when you were hired, or if your boss suddenly asked you to travel 75% of the time, and then you signed a role with little travel. But in most situations, expect to wait a year from the last time your salary was set before asking for it to be reassessed. Okay, and again, if things have changed, the price of gasoline, if they're not paying you some kind of a stimulus, for the travel outside or for the hotel, I'd ask. Okay, definitely. And of course, the excellent work on this part matters. And if you've been making a lot of mistakes or your boss hasn't seemed pleased with your work, a request for a raise is not likely to go over well. That'd be a good time for him to fire you. So you really want to be careful there. And if you risk seeming like you're not assessing your own performance accurately. So let me tell you what you need to do. And this is key, okay? So you're going to prepare the night before to go in and talk to the boss. Okay, so what you need to do is have paperwork ready. And let me tell you this is about bosses, okay? If you've been planning, you have a notebook, you have maybe a folder with their name on it, nicely written, and you type off some things that you've done that is really brought in business, okay? I mean, really, that's key. And you've done that, they're going to listen to you. So prepare before you go in. That's extremely important. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. So number 5, before the meeting, how to prepare. How to prepare. Okay, so know your work is worth. Know what your work is worth. And start by researching online. I'm going to tell you what, back in the day, back in my younger days, back in the 70s and 1980s, I would have loved to have had the resources that you guys have, where you can get on the internet and you can find out about a company, you can find out about the competition, you can know what they're doing. All these things are key, and all these things are really, really important. So let's dig into about this. Knowing what your work is worth, and start by researching online. Now again, this is from a really neat website. I'm glad I found this one. It's called thecut.com. Thecut.com. Okay, now ideally you should not go in with salary questions without knowing the salary landscape for the type of work you do and the geographic area you do it in, since there can be big variations by region. So if you live right here in Alabama, where I live, and you know that people in New York are probably making 3 times what you make, well, they're probably paying 4 times the area to live in. Their groceries are much higher. Utilities are probably higher. Taxes are higher up there too. So you got to be realistic about this before you go in. If you got your friend came in from New York and just bragging about they're making $100,000 a year and you're making 50, but think about the cost of living up there. Different variations. I would not go in and talk to the Mr. and Mrs. Employer and say, well, my friend's doing the same thing I'm doing and she's making $100,000. You know what they're going to do? They're going to ask where this friend lives. I mean, so let's be realistic, okay? I don't want you to go in and get fired. So this is why I'm telling you what not to do as well as what to do. And that's not in the cut right here. This is just from experiences with my having employees and me being an employee, okay? Alrighty. If you find out that you're underpaid in the market, that can be a compelling point you use when you ask for more, because for one thing, they're going to be afraid you're going to go out there and search the competition, you know. But don't go out there and say it. There are ways you can say things, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Okay, or if you find out you're already paid at the top of the market, you'd want to factor that in before you're even thinking about what kind of raise would be reasonable. So I know we had our cell phone business and we had 8 locations. We made it a point to pay our employees more than the competitors did. Yeah. So if anybody came in and asked me for a raise, I would ask them about their money spending habits. Now you got to think about this. The employer is thinking about that. If they see you on smoke breaks every 10 minutes, they're going to say, well, all your money's going to cigarettes. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And you've got to be realistic about that, okay? You've got to think about your spending habits before you even go in and ask for a raise. If you're eating lunch out 3 times a day, that's eating into your salary. Big time. It really is. I know when I worked at GTE, everybody used to talk about what a penny pincher was. And I made pretty good money because I worked really, really hard and I took really good care of my customers. And so people, they'd be going out to lunch and they'd eat like, $10 a day. And I guess I got to thinking about that. So I thought, no, wait a minute, $10 a day. I work 20, there are 4 weeks in a month. I work about 20 days out of the month. You know how much money that is? That's a lot of money. Not when I could just brown bag it, and just bring something to snack on. I ate crackers and stuff like that a lot with a cola or with water. I did that a whole bunch. Or bring a sandwich. I'll tell you what, another thing, now we're getting a little bit off the topic, but it kind of is on the topic. You're thinking about your spending habits. So I'll tell you what I've done a lot of times. I'd get a pork roast and cook it and then put it up in slices, put it in the freezer. And then the day I was going into work, I'd go ahead and take some of that pork roast out of the freezer and put some on some bread. And I'll tell you, it was some good eating. And I didn't have to stop and wait either. Now, you treat yourself every once in a while, do that. But what I'm saying is if you do this every single day, and as high as food is now to eat out, and you're spending $10 a day, my goodness. That's 10, 20, 30, 40, $50. That's $200 in a month's time. And that's money you can spend on something else. So let's go and let's dig a little bit more. Plus, if they're thinking about you for a management job and they see you're handling your home finances that way, they're going to think, they're not going to overspend if I put them in as a manager. So think about those things. Okay, now we talked about if you're already being paid at the top of the market, this might not be a good time to ask, okay? In practice, though, it could be tough to get information about salary ranges. Salary websites aren't always accurate at the individual level because the same job title can mean very different things from company to company, okay? They can be a helpful starting point, but don't treat them like the final word. Instead, assume they give you a very tough range. Okay. One thing that can be very helpful and give you surprising good data is simply talking to people in your field. That's real important. Most people don't love being asked, what do you earn? That could be a bad thing. This really needs to be somebody you know, a good friend. But they'll happily share it if you ask. What would you expect a job like X at a company like Y to pay? That's a good way to ask, okay? So, they got the same job title. What would you expect? Now, that's a good way to ask it. So what would you expect a job like management at a company like Walmart to pay? They can even try talking to recruiters. You can also talk to recruiters and see if any professional organizations in your field keep salary data. A lot of them do. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. We talked about, before the meeting, how to prepare. Factor in your company's salary structure. Now, this is number 6. We're going to make an hour show out of this because it's a lot of info right here, I promise you. Okay, now number 6 is factor in your company's salary structure. Now, once you've got a great idea of the going rate for your job, and you remember, keep the region in there. If it's in Alabama, we're not paid as high as people in New York. But then again, we can make our money stretch a lot better than they can in New York. This is from my New York friends too. Promise. Okay, some employers adhere to rigid policies around how large a pay increase anyone can get at any time, okay? Or rarely give more than a 5% raise. Others have been known to be more generous. It's useful to know how your company generally handles raises so you can know what's likely to be possible. Now, let me mention this. Okay, a lot of companies, if you're in a sales position, okay, they're paying you some paid straight commission. I always like to be paid straight commission because the percentage was higher and I was pretty good at what I did. So I always wound up making more money than if I'd had a salary or a draw against my commission. So this is what you need to think about. Okay, so if you're making a salary plus commission, if the rate is really low, like a lot of companies might pay you a salary of say like $200 $300 a week, but then they're going to pay you 30% of what you earn. And there's differences all across the board. You know, some pay more than that. A lot of them pay a lot less than that. And so if you're making a salary and gas prices are up, everything is up, you know, and you're just not able to make the ends meet, depending on if you're making sales, if you're doing pretty decent, maybe you're reaching the quota, whatever that is, I would talk to the employer, and instead of asking for the salary to be higher, I would ask if the percentage could be higher. There's a huge difference in percentage. So let me give you an idea. So let's go ahead and get the calculator out. Here's my calculator. Okay, so let's say right now I'm making, let's make it easy to add. Let's just say I make $100 sales on stuff, okay? And on $100 sales, I'm making, let's say I'm only making 20%. Okay, so on $100, I'm going to make $20. Okay, but let's say I'm selling a lot of those widgets and the employer's happy. I mean, they're always bragging about me. At every sales meeting, they're talking about me. They're mentioning my name and all those kinds of things. Don't do this at the sales meeting. You need to do this in a private note. So what I would do is get with the Mr. and Mrs. Employer, and I would say, you know, I'm making 20%, and I've brought in a lot of sales. Cost of living has went up. Gasoline is just incredibly high right now, and I've got to pay babysitting, and that's went up. Groceries have went up. Everything has went up. Go in though with your piece of paper, okay, and do some homework before you go in and talk to them. They need to see that you've been thinking about this, because here's what's going to happen. If they think you've been thinking about this, they're going to think, oh my God, they're probably thinking about going somewhere else. I got to keep this person. They're key. I mean, they're part of my business. They're the reason I got a good business. So what you'll do is just say, if I can have 40%, you know, it's jumping it just a bit, but if I could have 40%, you're still making more than I am. You're still getting 60. And, you know, I'm like bringing in 20 sales a month. It's important. Again, you've got to be the key person. You've got to be the person who's working when nobody else is. You've got to be the person who's coming in. I'm mentioning this again, okay, because this is extremely important. You've got to be the person that comes in early. You've also got the person who stays late. You've got to be the person who's just on it. You got to be the person also, if a problem is coming up, that Mr. and Mrs. Employer doesn't hear about it later. You've got to go to the Mr. and Mrs. Employer and say, look, I'm having a problem with one of our key prospects. I'm having an issue with this. Tell them what it is and tell them how you'd like to fix it. They like to know you can think real quick for yourself. They've got to know that they don't have to sit there and hold your hand, because Mr. and Mrs. Employer has a lot of things to do right now. A lot of cases, because of the issue with people not going to work anymore, a lot of cases, it's where Mr. and Mrs. Employer are doing 2 and 3 jobs right now. So, keep that in mind as well. Okay, so we're factoring in the company's salary structure. So I just said once you have a good idea, the going rate for your work, factor in understanding of your employer's salary structure too. Now, some employers adhere to rigid policies. We talked about that, about how much of a pay increase anyone can get at one time, or rarely give more than a 5% raise. Now, if that person only gives about a 5% raise, instead of asking for an extra 20%, I'd ask for an extra 10, and just gently climb up that ladder. And then the more you do, they may even say, you know what, you've been doing such a good job, or ask for a review. That's what I've done before. Say, look, I'll settle with 10% right now, but in 6 months, can we revisit this? And I'd like to talk to you about 20% when that happens. You've got to prove some thought on your end. Others have been known to be much more generous. We talked about that just a few seconds ago. It's useful to know how your company generally handles raises so you know exactly what's possible. Now, speaking of the employer's salary structure, if it's in the course of doing this research, you'll find that men in your office are earning more than women for the same work. You got a different issue on your hands. One that moves us a little bit out of the normal on how to ask for a raise, advice, and then into how to address a gender pay gap territory, which you can read about. That's also a good reason to be why you're getting that data for both men and women. Again, you got the internet at your hands, okay? It's really easy. Okay, let's talk about, I'm going to have to go into a break in just a few seconds. But there's a labor lawyer, and we're going to talk about this, and we may even jump up on it. Let's see, I need to get out of that part right there. Oh, let's go back. Let's go back. Okay, let's see. Oops, there we go. We're about to go back into another break. Okay, right here. During the meeting, what to ask when you ask for a raise. What to ask, what to say when you ask for a raise. Okay, people often think they'll need to make a detailed presentation about why they deserve more money. Let me say this, the less you say, the better, okay? And he who speaks first loses. Okay, this is the rule of negotiating 101, absolutely. So people just, they get all, you know, I had a boss one time, he would talk about people who talk too much during a sales call. And he would say, you got to be careful. And I remember the first time he said this, and I was like, what did he just say? And here's what he said. He said, you got to be careful not to vomit all over people. When he said that, we were all looking at each other like, what did he just say? And he said, no, I mean it. You got to be really careful not to vomit all over people. You get in there and you say way too much. You just need to get the key points. But what you're doing is building a relationship with your prospect, okay? And that's how you do it. You give it to them in small doses, so don't vomit all over your people. And all over your boss either. And that's what they're saying right here. You do want to touch on why you think you've earned a raise, that your responsibilities and or your level of your contributions has increased. That's key right there. But you don't need to walk in with a PowerPoint and pages of notes. One shooter, that's enough, okay? Most of the time, something like this is sufficient. I tell you what, let's wait until we come back in because this is pretty detailed and I want to make sure you really, really get this. We're going to go into a commercial break. I appreciate you watching. We're talking about, this is a website called thecut.com. We're talking about how to ask for a raise. You know, you've been out there, you've worked, you've done your due diligence, and you've done all kinds of awesome things for this company. And so you're going to get out there and you're going to ask for a raise. You're going to do it right. Let's go into a commercial break. And we're going to be right back in just a few minutes. Y'all hang tight, okay? The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. Begin a great year and save big money with these specials at Albertville Foodland Plus. A 5-pound bag of red or gold potatoes only $2.99 each. Warm up with Campbell's Chunky Soup, 2 for $4. Slim down with gold salads, only $2.99 each. And make sure to check out the deli with fresh veggies and tasty pork chops or hand-battered chicken fingers, only $5.99. Check us out on the web at shop.foodlandgrocery.com. Let Rhonda at Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC take the burden off you for all your tax needs. I know because Rhonda has been taking care of my business since 2013. I feel Rhonda works for me because she knows the direct questions to ask to better benefit my unique business in order for me to get back the biggest refund possible. Rhonda is an ongoing student, and she knows tax laws are in a constant change every year. Call 256-281-9903 for an appointment to take the dread out of getting your taxes done. Rhonda is located at 11968 U.S. Highway 431 in Boaz. Again, that number is 256-281-9903. And let Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC champion your personal and business taxes. Okay, we are back. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications and Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you again so much for watching. Now you could be doing anything else, but we're giving you some pointers today. Right across this really neat website. It's called thecut.com. thecut.com. We got to be smart in how we ask for a raise. So we're at number 7 right here when it says what to say when you ask for a raise. Again, don't go in and vomit all over them. I hope you're not eating lunch right now, but don't do that, because if you do that, what's going to happen is you're getting too much information to anybody, and this is key in negotiating with anything. Don't give out too much information, okay? Keep it easy. Okay, so we were talking about what to say when asked for a raise, and don't go in with PowerPoint presentations and all that kind of stuff, but you do need to go in with one sheet of paper, and this one sheet of paper needs to have all the highlights on all the things you're going to ask for a raise about, okay? and why you think you deserve one. Okay, now this is a really good thing to say. This is very, very sufficient. I really appreciate the opportunities you've given me for greater responsibilities, like, say, X and Y. Okay, you've detailed that. I've been getting great results in those areas over the last year, and I've exceeded the goals we've created. Could we talk about adjusting my salary to reflect this higher level of contribution? It's that simple. Just go in. You just say, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done that, and I've done that. Okay, and then be very frank about it. Be very, not in their face now, but you also need to look them in the eyes. Because if you're not looking them in the eyes, they're going to say, man, what are they afraid of? You got to look people in the eyes. And it's always good to handshake too. That's always good. That never goes out of style. Never. And here's something else that they've added. Again, this is called thecut.com, how to ask for a raise. Okay, I'm hoping we can talk about my salary. It's been a year since my last raise, and I've taken on a number of new responsibilities since then. Now, see, you're being nice and you're being pleasant. You're a team worker, okay? You work on a team with folks. Don't ever forget that. I'm managing all our copywriters, and I was even able to smooth out that long-running issue with the design team, which ended up saving us a ton of time in the last few months. I think things are going really well, and I'd like to talk about increasing my salary to reflect this new work. Now put it in your own words, okay? And it's good to read things like this, but it needs to be put in your own words. So this is kind of how I handled a situation when I was working at a radio station. Okay, so they were paying me very little. It was a percentage, and it was straight commission, and the guy was about to go out of business. And so I come in and I want to turn things around for him. Now they got to want to turn things around too. Okay, that's number one right there. If you're looking for a job and you want to be like the Chrysler guy and you want to turn the company around, they got to want to turn it around too. They got to have the same kind of ambition that you do. But anyway, so he's paying me a very small percentage. And so I was racking out some sales. You know, I was selling a lot of ads. And so I talked to him about an increase. So this is what I said. I said, when I first started, I think you only had like 3 commercials. And don't say in a downgraded way, okay? Not at all. And I didn't. And I said, I believe you only had about 3 commercials. And now we've got like 17. And so I just wanted to ask for a bigger percentage because I've really been working hard. You know, and you don't have to look over my back, my shoulder. You don't have to make sure I'm doing the right job. And, you know, people are paying, so that's part of it too. We're keeping on top of it, making sure people pay. And so I wound up getting like an extra 5%. But now an extra 5% can pay off. So let's just use that $100 again. You know, that use $100 and you got, say, $5. There's been a lot of times $5 extra pay in my pocket for gasoline was worth a lot. Nobody's going to fill a tank on $5. But what I'm saying is I've been in a situation before where that would definitely help. So, you know, and I probably could have got a little bit more than that. But anyway, he was able to pay his bills. And so that was pretty cool as well. Okay, now, if you have a specific dollar figure in time, it's fine to put a name on it. Absolutely. As in, I'm hoping we can raise my salary to $100 extra a month or whatever. So it's okay to put that number on there. But it's also okay not to start out with a specific figure, although you should be prepared to be asked what you're hoping for. Okay, now one tip. If you know your boss will need to get your raise approved by someone else above them, like their own manager or maybe, you know, human resources, you can make it easier for her to do that by leaving her with a short bulleted list of key points in your favor. Short. Okay, like they say resumes need to be one pager. This needs to be one pager too. Okay, now to keep this short though, no more than 1 page. Okay, I got a little ahead of the game. But some quick bullets that highlight your most significant new responsibilities or accomplishments. You have compelling data about competitive salaries that you should include in that as well. You know, I thought this was pretty neat right here. If you know it's going to go to someone else. And talk about why Talk about not only the sales you've brought in, but talk about your efficiency, because it could be something that's just really not sales related. It could be customer service issues. Maybe the person they've had before has been extremely rude to customers, and your whole being is about customer service. You're taking care of them. When somebody calls about a complaint, you don't make it sound as if it's their fault. That's pretty key. It really is. I'll tell you something I used to do. So I was with GTE. I'm mentioning them a lot, and I was with the corporate end of it, handled the corporate and government accounts. So this is what would happen, even if it was not my customer, even if not, they came to me, and because maybe my customer said, well, talk to Donna, Donna will straighten it out for you. Listen to them. Never go in saying, never, never, never go in telling a customer that it could be their fault. Never. Even if it is the customer's fault, it's not the customer's fault in your book, okay? You got to really think about that. So it's a good way to hold on to customers. So let's just say you're in customer service and your whole being is about saving the customers for the company. Keep a list of those, okay? Because that can come in handy when you're asking for a raise. Maybe, the plumber just down the street was having maybe his orders weren't coming in correctly, but you went on ahead and took care of it. Maybe you even took the box of supplies the plumber needed to his office, so they wouldn't have to wait on extra days of shipping. That's a good thing to do. I was talking with this guy who has a printing company, and so he told me that he had a company that needed some printing supplies. Well, for some reason, the people who did he did this like heavy roll of needed some paper or something. I forgot what he said. They didn't send the right box. They sent the wrong box. He could not wait. So what he did that night, he went on ahead and called the paper supplier, and he said, "Look, you sent the wrong paper." And he said, "Well, that was kind of done, in the whatever supply office." And he said, "That's I don't care. I've got a customer right here that's got to have this stuff. I can't wait another week for the supplies to be mailed to me." He said, "So this is what you're going to do. It's 2:00 in the morning right now." They were like 3 hours apart. He said, "I'm heading in your direction. You've got time to go on ahead and get the supplies I need. We'll trade those out. Then I'll be driving myself back with the correct supplies." And that's what he was. He wasn't rude, but he was very matter of fact about that. And because, see, he had his customers who would not understand that it was his supplier that would be the reason he was not getting his correct printed supplies. By the way, you can look for them with one of our new sponsors. We'll be talking about that pretty soon. So if you want some printing needs done, I'm going to help you with some printing needs from a company that's a Christian owned, and they're very legitimate. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later too. Okay, let's see. We're talking about if the answer is no, and then it could be. If the answer is no, this is a perfect opportunity to ask, can you tell me what you think it would take for me to earn a raise in the future? A decent manager would be able to explain to you what you need to know to earn more. Don't get mad, don't get all puffy, and don't act like I'm going to quit and stomp out of here. You've just got to understand. You've got to say, well, I'm not understanding what I'm not doing correctly. Help me to do what I'm supposed to do so I can ask for a raise. Okay, it could be anything. That could be manage your work more. Stop alienating all your coworkers. Maybe you're not a team player. That's important. People are looking for team players now. And let me tell you this about being a team player. That means you're going to know about other people's jobs and how they operate and what that can mean for you a little bit later in life. What if they quit? You're going to be able to dive in there and you're going to say, look, I'm going to ask you for a raise because I'm going to take on some of this responsibility. That's just another offer thing for you, okay? It's just an awesome way to get a raise. Now, it could be you're at the top of the range for your position, so you'd have to be promoted to earn more money here. Well, then ask them what kind of promotion. I mean, what do I need to do? What's the next step up? Always ask, and ask in a very kind way, okay? But be diplomatic. Be very to the point. Don't vomit all over them. The less verbiage, the better, okay? Okay, then you can access whether you're able or willing to follow the path your manager lays out, or whether a realistic path even exists at all. There's some people that I don't care what, you'll never get anywhere with them. And if your manager isn't able to give you specifics about how you can earn a raise in the future, that's a useful signal that you want more money. You may need to leave in order to go somewhere else. Yeah, absolutely. Now there's a few comments under here. And I wanted to go and kind of talk about these. We've got some time. Okay, now this person right here says asking your employer for more money isn't easy, even when you know you deserve it. But if you knocked it out of the park over the past year, if you've taken on more responsibilities, or you received a stellar performance review, you owe it to yourself to talk to your manager about a pay increase. If you're not sure how to start the conversation, or if this is the first time your boss hears you want more money, check out an article. There's an article from Resume Valley. It'll help you get more development, help you develop more confidence about the message that you want to send. And then here's somebody else who wrote, or you've received a stellar performance review, you owe it to yourself to talk to your manager about a pay increase. And it really does. You've got to also write a resume. And let's talk about this just for a minute. Okay, did you know on when you're working for a company, okay, you had a resume, and you need to be writing resumes all through your time of working for this company. I'm going to tell you why this makes sense. Okay, and this is what I used to do. And so I wrote a resume, and now this is back in the day when it was like a 4-page resume. Now it's it's actually a 1-page resume. You want to have your bullet points, and this is when as you're growing your time within this company, your resume is going to get bigger. You need to hold on to that first resume you sent in, okay? Keep it in a folder somewhere to keep it handy. So for the very first resume, you don't even know if you got the job yet. Okay, so you're kind of playing footsie with this person, this company right now. See if you can even get along with them. So that's important too. So you've written, what your job requirements, what you would like to do, what your perfect job is, and how you would like to help them earn more money, how you'd like to save them efficiency. A lot of people are efficiency managers. Yeah, and that's a really, really good job. You're going into this company and you're looking for them ways to save money. Not only that, how they can save time. Okay, so let's say this company builds widgets and you've been working with them for about a year, but you figured out a way they can save like 10 hours a week. Did you know how much that means to a company? You're showing them you've got an idea, and you're going to go and you're going to present it with all kinds of confidence and let them figure this out, okay, how they can actually implement this idea. And then come to find out, they wind up saying 15 hours a week instead of just the 10 that you thought. Put that on your resume. Mm-hmm. Every time you've helped this company in any way, you need to be writing it down, because when it comes to asking for a raise, you're not going to remember every single thing you've done. You're going to remember, for the most part, you're going to remember a lot of things, but this is really, really key. Okay, so let's say you've helped them save 15 hours of time. And then you're always looking for ways, okay? You're efficient. If you're working at Chick-fil-A, that's one of our new sponsors. So let's say you're working at Chick-fil-A and you found a way where you can increase the time, because I'm gonna tell you, Chick-fil-A, Zoom, people are all coming in there at the same time. They've got to have efficient people. But maybe you figured out a way where you can wrap the Chick-fil-A sandwiches quicker. Isn't that an awesome thing? You've saved time. Or maybe you figured out, what, the ketchup was here. If the ketchup were here, I think that would save a lot of time for our folks who are behind the counter or the people who are at the drive-through. Maybe you've come up with an efficient way to help. You're always looking for really, really good ideas. And I'm telling you, it's not just about money. It's about saving time too. And a lot of folks are having to deal with, when they used to have five employees, they only have 3 now. Well, guess what? That's a lot of work for 3 people to do when you can't find the other 2. And they're constantly looking. People are constantly quitting. They want to stay home. Millions of reasons. But you're one who stuck it out there. You've been with them all this time. And you found a way that 3 people can do the job of 5. You better believe they're going to give you a raise. And this is how you can go about this one. So you can say, you know what? We make these widgets here, and I found a way to get our shipping done and everything packaged a whole lot quicker. And so you explain that to them. You'll say, you know what? That job was actually, it's going to save you. And it can't be about you, okay? It's got to be about the Mr. and Mrs. Employer. So here's what you're going to say. Look, I found this really efficient way right here. We're having to work with 3 people who are doing the job of 5 right now. But I found a really, really good way in shipping. And you explain that to them. And then you can say, you know something, that's probably going to save you about, $1,000 at least a month. And more than that, really. It's going to save you, say, $1,500 a month. You're going to keep those notes when you talk to Mr. and Miss Employer, and then you're going to go back a little bit later. I'd give it a good 3 months before you go back. And then you're going to go back and say, Mr. and Mrs. Employer, what do you think about my idea? Did it really work? Did it help? Are you saving that much money now with mailing these widgets out? And they're going to like, yeah, wow, that's really, really good. Don't ask for like the $1,500 of the other person, but ask for a fair amount. You got to be fair in this thing. And maybe say, since there's the 3 of us, maybe you could kind of divide that 3 ways. Maybe you could get $500 extra. Each one of the 3 who've stuck it out and they've done a really good job could get a raise of $200 to $300 or whatever. Don't ask for a whole lot, but that would be a good time for the 3 of you to go in and talk with them about that. Again, you're writing every single thing down, okay? And those are notes that you're going to be able to use a little bit later on when you're asking for a, and I'm going to tell you what, it doesn't feel like you're demanding to the employer. I wouldn't. I would be thinking, man, I got a good employee right here. They're reminding me about how they just saved me time. And, because I couldn't find another employee, they're reminding me about how, I've saved money. I've been able to put some of that money into other resources. You got to be all about the company. I mean, you got to be about you now. You got to pay your bills, but you got to be about the company. Okay, now let me tell you something else you can do. And this is about asking for a raise. So let's say the cost of living, everything has went up. What you want to do is you want to get your salary. You want a piece of paper, and this can be handwritten right here. You don't have to type this out. So this can be handwritten. So what you're going to do is talk about maybe you're working part-time and you'd like to have a full-time job. This would be a good one, okay? So the cost of everything has went up. We know that. The price of just operating your car has went up. I know Phil, thank God he likes to tinker with cars. The windshield wipers, he changed those. Even I could do that. But he was having a problem with the brakes. He started hearing the brakes scrub. Now, this is a car that Phil bought from Twin City Used Cars, probably 5 years ago. And he holds on to this car. I mean, it's been a good one. But there are some maintenance things. It has nothing to do with the mechanics of the car. You got oil you got to get changed. You got to get your tires every once in a while. You got to get new tires. You got to get the brakes fixed, especially when you live on Sand Mountain. Okay, you're constantly going up and down the mountain, up and down the mountain. That wreaks havoc with your brakes. So those are things that are expensive. I mean, those are things that you got to take care of. So you got your receipts, and then you go in, you talk to Mr. Employer, and you say, I would really like to have a full-time job. And I know that you've been trying to hire some people. Statistically, you like to have part-time people, but I would like to ask you to hire me full-time. That's just for you part-timers out there and you want full-time. So you can say, this is how much it cost me to operate my car. I just had the brakes fixed and it went way up. You can even say, something, to save money, my husband fixed it. Or to save money, I fixed the brakes, or, the tires, or whatever you want to say. Every single thing is going up. But you got to have that list with you. It's key. And then you talk with them about why you want to work full-time. And you can say, the job that I have right now, I work in shipping, and I think if I'm working full-time, working in shipping, I think I can be a much bigger asset to you because I'm not going to have to start all over again. And this is true. Okay, studies have been shown on this. So if you have part-time people, and I mean, they're making it rock and roll. I mean, they're making that shipping department be, and whoops, I'm only here for 5 hours. I got to stop. Then you got to go and start back over tomorrow. It takes a few minutes to get those cogs turning. It just does. That's just efficiency right there. So you're telling Mr. and Mrs. Employer, look, I'll be working here all day long. If I see there's nothing to do, I will find something to do. Because I want you to be efficient, but I've got to be able to pay my bills. There's no shame in saying that. None at all. And again, let's say you're having a hard time making because I'm just telling you, I have friends who have kids in daycare. Daycare cost has went up. I mean, it's just, oh my goodness, I don't know how people make a living. That's why so many people are staying home, Mr. and Mrs. Employer. You need to understand that too. That's why. So if you make things happen on your end, that's going to make it even better too. But again, go in with a smile. Be confident when you go in. Look them in the eyes. You got to do that. Don't be looking down. Don't be doing any of that stuff. You could keep your head up and you walk in. Don't be cocky, because there's nothing worse than that. If you think you're all that in a bag of chips and it shows on your face and it shows in the way your demeanor is, they're not going to give you a raise. Everything has got to be good on your part. But the whole key is you got to look out after yourself. But now Mr. and Mrs. Employer have to be able to make a living too. They've got to be able to pay the bills. So it's one of those things where it's like a catch-22. Do I say this or don't I say that? I mean, what do I do? You've got to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Employer about how absolutely you want to see them in these times. You want to see them get ahead too. And you want to say, we're a team here and I want it to work out. Okay, let's see. No, I don't think this is a good idea. Don't go in saying, well, I've been talking to your competitor down there. And don't make anything up, by the way. If you're lying, people have a way of finding out. So if you've not talked to a competitor, first of all, I would not say that anyway. They let them think that you might be doing that on their own, okay? And they will. You don't have to say a word. They're going to wonder, oh my goodness, have they been talking about XYZ? Have they been talking to XYZ Widget Company? I'm ABC Widget Company. But XYZ over there has been trying to take my employees. Let them think about that. You don't have to bring that up, okay? So all this is efficiency. All this is about working around in a circle where you're all happy and Mr. Employer is really happy to have you and you're really happy to be there. And you know something? You never know what you're going to do that might help the rest of the employees as well. So they might be asking you, hey, did you just get a raise? First of all, it's none of anybody's business whether you got one or not, but they may ask. And if they do say, you know what, do more work around here like I've been doing. I've been working, I do things that are not in my job description. That's the worst thing that ever happened in this world, is when people come up with these job descriptions and they started saying, it's not in my job description. Do things, okay? Do extra things. Wash the dishes if they're in the break room and they're piling up. Wash them. It won't take you just a few minutes to do it. Get a broom, start sweeping the floor. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've learned something. This website is pretty awesome. It's called thecut.com, thecut.com, and I definitely appreciate you. I hope you get in there and make it happen. Absolutely. I think you can. Okay, again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in just a few minutes with some awesome folks.
At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and my employees and I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. With everything going on right now, your rest is so important. That's why we're having the biggest MyPillow sale ever. Not only are my bed pillows as low as $19.98, but you can get the best body pillows ever. Regular $89.98, now only $29.98. Take your rest on the go with our Roll and Go Anywhere My Pillows for only $14.98. And we have our new couch and accent pillows. They aren't just for looks. They have My Pillow's patented adjustable fill that gives you that amazing My Pillow comfort. In this economy, you get the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you get deep discounts on body, couch, bolster pillows, and so much more, including my original bed pillows for as low as $19.98. Please order now while quantities last.
Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.